Welcome back. A former White House chief of staff is sitting down with us one-on-one today. Andrew Card served President George W. Bush from 2001 to 2006. He is set to speak at UW's La Follette School this week and sat down with political reporter Will Keneally in advance.
All right, so Mr. Card, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I look forward to being in Madison, Wisconsin for this opportunity to share my thoughts with faculty, students, and guests.
So in Wisconsin here, we often joke about, we like to say that we're the center of the political universe. I'm always curious from that outsider's perspective, does that bear out? Does Wisconsin seem like in the United States the political center of the universe?
Well, I live in New Hampshire. New Hampshire certainly prides itself as being the place where democracy is closest to the people, and the road to the White House goes right through New Hampshire almost every season. So, but Wisconsin is known for having wonderful debates about the state of our democracy. And I'm particularly proud that Wisconsin gave the Republican Party its future by gathering in Ripon, and that's the party of Lincoln and the party that I'm a member of. I'm not sure I can recognize the party by how it's practiced in some places around the country, but in Wisconsin, they take the nature of democracy seriously, and they've worked to polish it for a number of years. And I think our democracy right now is in desperate need of being polished because it's quite tarnished.
You were a big key player in both national and Republican politics, both through the 90s and the early 2000s. We in Wisconsin think of that as the Tommy Thompson era, if it were simpler times. I was wondering, too, from your perspective, looking at the 90s compared to where we are now, where do we see politics headed since then, and where do you see politics going?
Well, Governor Thompson is a friend, and I had great respect for him when he was governor, and certainly when he was secretary of HHS under George W. Bush. So I'm a big fan. But I would say that the democracy today is challenged. And when I got involved in politics, and I grew up in a family that politics was not a dirty word. My grandmother had been a militant suffragette fighting for women to get the right to vote. So we grew up where my grandmother would say the most important word in the Constitution is the first word, we. It's our government, and we're invited to participate in it, accept the invitation. And she would say, when I was your age, the we didn't apply to me. And it didn't apply to her until August of 1920, when women got the right to vote. But yes, I happen to feel that Tommy Thompson and others back in those days, we participated in government, but the rug of American politics at that time had more rug than fringe.
In Milwaukee, Marquette University has done some national polls on some of these tenets of democracy, essentially, polling on trust in government among just the population broadly. And trust is essentially at an all-time low for government. Curious from your perspective, how do some of these politicians, how do some of these government officials reinstill that trust among the American people?
I think that's an important responsibility that we all have, those of us who are part of our democracy, and I'm hoping that everybody recognizes they're part of it. And it really is be respectful in your dialogue and give confidence in our institutions of democracy and our institutions of government. And there's a little bit of a difference. The institutions of democracy include the going out to vote and participating in primary campaigns and general election campaigns. That's really important to do that. So we want the integrity of the ballot to be respected, and we don't want to have it questioned in a malicious way. Instead, we want to make sure that it's right. And I also think we have to respect the institutions of democracy. And those institutions include people who serve in government, local government, state government, federal government. And it's how people act in those positions that frequently gives definition to whether or not we can be trusted. So it's a noble calling to be part of the government. It's a noble calling to answer the call to duty to serve in the military, for example. But it's also noble to say, I want to register to vote.
Again, that was Will Keneally interviewing former White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card. We will be right back.